Well, hello, welcome back. I'm Joe, and I want to bring you another lighting tutorial, this time more in the vein of video. Was a little bored over the weekend, which is not a normal thing for me. We have a business and a variety of things that keep us busy outside of this and my normal day job as well. But I had a little time on my hands, wanted to make something new, so I decided to do a lighting tutorial of a sequence of me just sketching out some ideas in my garage for a spring bee-box support bracket stand. Bee-box stand? Beehive stand? Yeah, beehive stand. My wife is getting bees this spring, and we want to have a stand for them so that we can get them up off the ground and prevent pests like ants and things from getting in there and messing with them. So the plans are not very official, but it was a good excuse for me to sketch something up and then light it. So real quick, I will get in and show you the brief sequence that I made, and then we'll come back here and we'll talk about how we made it. Okay, so for this first wide shot, I was shooting on, again, the kit lens, same thing that we used in my portrait photography video, if you saw that recently. It's an 1855 kit lens on my Canon 80D, so it is a crop sensor, so it does push into probably like a 35 to 85 or somewhere in that realm. I'm not sure exactly what that math works out to. But I had it set on the wider end for this wide shot. Shooting with my window and frame, we were shooting at around 4 p.m., so we're getting into that like dusk hour. It was a pretty overcast day, so as you can see out the window, it's not super contrasty, which played to my benefit so that the window was actually not blown out, and I could kind of play with some smaller lights and not have massive differences in contrast. So I've got 3 lights going on in this scene. One is a practical that you, I guess, technically can't see, but it is just a clamp light that has a CFL tungsten balanced light bulb in it that is always shining in that position in my garage. So then I had that one turned on, and then if you look to frame left, just past the messy crazy locker of all that stuff, is another light stand with a 60 watt Fresnel from Genere on that, which is giving me all of that back edge light. And then if you notice, you can kind of see it's cold out there. My breath was backlit as well, and that light is giving us all of that orange. Obviously I'm getting a little bit of fill from the window and bringing my levels up so that I'm not completely in darkness and silhouette here. Off to frame right, I also have a 5-in-1 reflector with a Viltrox 162T, I believe, is the model number. It's a bicolor small panel that runs off of MPF batteries, and it was just bouncing into that reflector at 5600 Kelvin to give me a little bit of a cooler fill to kind of act and supplement the daylight that's coming in through the window. So that is it for this scene. I had to play around a little bit. One interesting thing about that Genere, I think it's called the torpedo light. They're super handy little lights, but if you run them on MPF batteries and the batteries are not fully charged, it seems like there's a threshold and those things will start to blink, which is crazy and really annoying. I like the light for a variety of other reasons, but that feature honestly kind of sucks. So I usually just plug it in with the power supply and don't have any issues with that there. But that is what I'm running on that side. But let's move on to the close-up. Really the same setup here. I did bring in my 5-in-1 reflector a little bit closer just to bring the level up even more on my face so that I'm not falling off quite as much. You can't see quite as much of what that Genere light is doing here. You can see that it is kind of lighting the back of my head here and giving the background some lighting as well, and just a little bit of interest. Not a lot changed in that close-up shot there. And then here we brought the Genere light around just a little bit further, so if we come back to the wide, it is out of frame here, but when you go to the close-up of my hands, it is probably about where the locker is. I just wrapped it around a little bit so that you could see it coming across the edge of my hands, and it gave us a little bit of a cut on the pad of paper so that we just had a little bit of interest there. It wasn't all in shadow or all blown out, a little bit of contrast in the lighting there. And again, we have that fill coming in to give kind of the cooler tones in the shadows a little bit off that 5-in-1. I was trying to go for a little bit of color contrast here with the torpedo light set at 3200 Kelvin and our fill from the little Viltrox light at 5600 to give us a little bit of that kind of orange and blue contrast in the color. It wasn't quite as pronounced as I would have maybe hoped, but it's something that I was just playing with. You know, if you wanted to, you could dial that in more with some gels, or you could play around with the color balance on your camera to probably get that a little more pronounced one way or the other. I still think it's here, it's just a little more subtle, and I don't mind it. I think it looks pretty good. Again, here is a reverse shot on my face. We have that Generate light is still more sighty. It's in the same position as it was when we had the shot of my hands to give us a little bit more of a split, a little bit more of that hard, more warm light on that side of me, and then you can see that cool light, which to me is again kind of playing off maybe a little bounce off the pad of paper, maybe a little bit of that cooler tone in the light that is coming through the window with all the snow outside. One thing we did add to the back of this scene so that it didn't go completely black was a newer panel light. I've referenced it in a couple of my other videos, but it's like their 660 bicolor panel. They're pretty inexpensive, but it just gave me a little bit of a wide stroke of light just so you could kind of see that there's something back there. I don't want it to be super obvious what that is. I just want you to see that there is a background and it's not just black. It also helps me separate a little bit because if I had done that, my hood and my hat and all of that would have just kind of disappeared. I do think we had pushed that reflector in a little closer to get that fill on my face as well here. And this is the same setup as our other close-up hand shot. The only difference here is I had the camera on top of my tabletop, and I actually shot this upside down, and then I just flipped the image over in post to get it like it was an overhead shot, basically from my point of view. And I thought it turned out pretty decent. And that is really it. We had essentially 3 different lights in this setup, 4 if you want to count the practical. And once we were set, we did minor adjustments to kind of dial in the exposure and give us some fill and various things, but it was really a pretty straightforward setup. One thing I would probably do differently if I could is maybe put like a hand dimmer or something on that practical. To me, it comes off a little bit hot above my head on that wall there. You could put a dimmer on it to deal with that. You could put ND gel over the light since it's out of the frame to maybe dim that down. You could put a B7C in there and maybe control the actual output of the bulb if you have something like that, but just knocking that down a little bit would be nice. I suppose an option for that too would be to have more fill on me so that we could just drop the overall exposure of the frame, but I kind of like how the window looks, so I don't know if that's the best solution for that. But so that's it for this one. Just a quick lighting setup, me playing around with some gear in my garage, trying to test a couple different things, see how it looks. Hoping to do more of these as the time goes on, and this year I'm hoping to actually do some other things too. I appreciate all you guys and love all you guys for coming to check out the photo and video content. I'm hoping to expand into some other elements of our life as the weather warms up and we get into some other things and projects that my wife and I have going on. But you know, one through line of all of this is that I'm going to be making videos and sharing with you that process as we go along as well. So stay tuned as we go into 23. There's probably going to be some new interesting stuff coming your way. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.